All right, thank you so much for joining me. This is Slow Flow Yoga. We'll be here for about an hour. My name is Jen Tarrant, and I am super excited that you're here with me today for class. We will be starting off with just the mat, and perhaps if you'd like something supported under the head and have blocks handy so that if we need them during class, they're easily available. We'll begin this morning in supine position. So as we make our way onto our backs, let's adjust so that we feel comfortable here and take a moment to scan the body and notice how everything's feeling this morning. As we take this scan, we notice there's some part of our body that would like a little extra care. Let's be conscientious and make that commitment to take care of ourselves so that if anything doesn't feel quite right today, that we choose another option, something that feels more kind to the body. And of course, if we are recovering from illness or injury or have any special concerns today, let's choose, as always, to honor our bodies as we move and as we breathe. Now let's take our attention specifically to our breath now and feel how that breath is moving in the body. We may notice that we feel sensation in the torso expanding and contracting with each breath. We may notice that gentle whispery sound of the breath. And whatever it is about the breath that we notice, let's make that effort now to deepen the breath so that each inhale takes a little bit more time and each exhale takes a little bit more time. And we'll allow our breath to remain deep and even as we draw one knee toward our chest, feeling that gentle stretch for the back of the hip, and then switching to the other side, feeling that hip and noticing how it feels today. And now alternating from one leg to the other. And then bringing both knees toward our chest. Let's gently rock from side to side, massaging over that lower part of the back. And back to the center again. Keeping our knees bent, let's place our feet on the mat with arms by our sides and begin to flow through bridge poses. So with our inhale, we'll lift our hips up. And as we exhale, we'll release back down to the mat. And let's do several of these, really enjoying our body opening up as we lift and relaxing our way back down to the mat. And one more. As our hips rest back down on the mat, let's roll over onto our side and press up to a seated position. Coming into an easy seat with legs crossed. And if we like, this is a good time to sit on the blanket for a moment. So if we like elevating the hips a bit, just placing that right underneath. Adding some arm movements to our breath. Let's reach as we inhale and draw hands through heart center as we exhale. And let's continue to move through these, feeling that connection of breath and movement together. And just one more. Now bringing our hands beside us, let's press toward the floor and feeling our body lift nice and tall, our shoulders relaxing down. Let's draw chin to chest for a little stretch for the neck. And bringing it up to the top, let's take our gaze over one shoulder, through the center and the other shoulder, and back to the center, and right ear toward our right shoulder, and letting that left shoulder really relax down. Up to the top and the other way, feeling that right shoulder release. And up to the top. Bringing hands to the tops of our legs. Let's inhale and lift tall and take a little twist to the right. Feeling our right ribs and our right shoulder reach back. Through the center and the other way. And back to the center. All right, now let's turn it over onto our hands and knees. So if we have support under our hips, we'll need to move that out of the way. And we'll come onto hands and knees with wrists under shoulders and knees under hips. And of course, we always have the option to bring fists to the mat if that feels better for the wrist joints. And then we'll begin to move through some cat-cows. As we inhale, we feel our body opening up and lifting through the crown of our head, and exhaling as we round it out. Let's do a few more, feeling that movement go from the tailbone all the way to the crown of the head, each direction. And one more. And bringing ourselves back to neutral spine. Let's move into a spinal balance. We'll send our right heel back and reach our left fingertips forward, maintaining a nice lift here through the core. And bringing it back down. Let's switch left heel and right fingertips, staying nice and strong through the middle, and back down. Let's alternate this with the breath now, inhaling as we reach, and exhaling to release. One more for each side. And as we return to hands and knees, let's press back to child's pose, resting our hips back toward our heels and allowing our head to rest on the mat or on top of stacked hands or stacked fists. And as we pause here, let's check in with our breath again, feeling our breath expand out toward our legs and releasing away from our legs. Now reaching forward through our arms, let's fully extend our elbows, feeling our fingers spread wide. And let's walk our hands over to the right as we allow our left ribs and left hip to relax down. And we'll take 2 breaths into the left rib cage. Coming back through the center, let's walk hands over to the left and resting down through our right ribs and right hip. Let's take 2 breaths into the right rib cage. And coming back to the center. Continuing to reach long through the arms, let's tuck our toes and lift hips up and back for downward facing dog. We'll take some time here to pedal it out, stretching through the backs of the legs. Now pressing up high onto the balls of both feet, bending our knees a lot. Let's push our hips farther back. And then walking or stepping up to the top of the mat. Coming into our forward fold, let's bend our knees enough to rest our body on our legs. And then let our head hang down and nod our head yes. And shake our head no. And letting our head and neck relax, let's bring fingertips to opposite elbows and gently shift from one foot to the other, stretching deeper into the backs of the legs. And coming back to the middle, releasing hands. Let's bend our knees a lot and reach arms out wide, pressing with our legs all the way to standing and reaching arms overhead. Let's feel ourselves grounding down through the feet, lifting tall through our body, relaxing our shoulders. And adding some side stretches here. Let's reach one hand and then the other up toward the ceiling. And back to the middle. Let's take arms down to our sides and reach behind for chest expansion. We can either interlace our fingers or press our palms toward each other. And whatever we choose, let's draw our shoulder blades back so we feel our chest really opening up. And then letting that go. All right, next we're going to move into moonflowers, which is a wide stance. We can either turn and face the long edge of the mat or step on either side of the mat. We just want to make sure we feel stable wherever we are. Toes pointing out nice and wide. We'll reach up into a 5-pointed star. And as we bend our knees, drawing elbows in. Inhaling as we reach. Exhaling as we bend. We're keeping those hips back and our body nice and tall. Inhaling to reach. And exhaling as we bend. On the next one, let's turn it into sunflowers. Big circle, deeper hinge at the hips. Keeping our spine nice and long here, head above heart, heart above hips, hips above knees. And we'll do one more. And letting arms relax by our sides. Let's pivot and step up to the top of the mat again. Inhaling, we'll reach arms overhead, and swan diving, we'll fold it in. Right foot stepping to the back of the mat for lunge. And left foot back, downward facing dog. Pulling forward for plank pose. Let's rest knees down, shifting and lowering for crocodile, and relaxing hips and all the way down, peeling head and chest up for cobra, releasing, tucking toes, and pressing up and back to down dog. Right foot stepping to the top of the mat for lunge. Followed by the left forward fold. Reaching wide all the way up and overhead. Circling as we sit into chair pose. And returning to mountain. Let's fold it in. Inhaling, stepping our left foot back. And right foot back, down dog. Pulling forward for plank, knees down, shifting, lowering for crocodile, hips and all the way down, peeling up for cobra, releasing, tucking toes, pressing up and back, down dog. Left foot stepping to the top of the mat, right foot up for forward fold, reaching wide and overhead, circling as we sit into chair, and returning to mountain. Let's do one more on each side, folding it in. Right foot stepping back, and left down dog. Pulling into plank, knees down, shifting, lowering crocodile, and releasing to the mat, peeling up for cobra, and down. Tucking toes and pressing up and back to down dog. Right foot stepping up for lunge. Left foot up, forward fold. Reaching up and overhead. Circling as we sit for chair. Returning to the top. And last one, folding it in. Left foot stepping back for lunge. Downward facing dog. Pulling it forward for plank. Knees down. Shifting and lowering. Releasing. And peeling up for cobra. And down. Tucking toes, we'll press up and back to down dog. Left foot to the top of the mat. Forward fold. Reaching wide up to mountain. Circling as we sit for chair. And returning to mountain. Arms relaxing by our sides. Let's take a moment. Grab a drink, towel off if needed, adjust wardrobe or ponytail, whatever we need to do. And as we're ready, we'll meet together at the top of the mat. From the top of the mat, let's feel ourselves strong in our mountain pose, And reaching arms overhead, settling shoulders down, we'll step our left foot back for warrior one. Pressing strong through the outer edge of the back foot, lifting through the back knee and through those core muscles in the front. Now let's open up into warrior two. Staying nice and open in that front hip by drawing the knee out wide to the side. Let's also feel our shoulders open back and relax down. Taking hands to the mat, let's step back for downward facing dog and pause here for a moment. Checking that our feet are about hip width, our hands are about shoulder width, and bending our knees enough to really rest back so that the chest is reaching back toward the legs. Let's shift it forward into plank pose. Knees can be up or down. Either one, let's press strong through the shoulders and lift through the core muscles. So knees down or up here. And returning to downward facing dog. Let's step up to the top of the mat. I'm going to switch sides so I can face you when we open up into the poses. And reaching wide, arms overhead. Standing strong through the body, this time stepping our right foot back for warrior one. Feeling ourselves lift through that back knee, lifting through the core muscles in the front. Nice, deep, even breaths. Opening it up, warrior two. Feeling ourselves open wide through that front hip as we draw the knee open. Feeling shoulders relax down and opening back. And maintaining that deep breath here. And taking hands to the mat, stepping it back for downward facing dog. Now let's combine our down dog and our plank pose, and we'll shift from down dog to plank and back to down dog, and we'll do that twice more. And as we come back to that next down dog, let's pause for 2 more breaths. Right foot stepping all the way up to the top of the mat. Let's open it up into warrior two. It's a little wider stance for this warrior two. So feeling that depth of stretch in the hips. And now reaching back for reverse warrior. Lots of energy resting in the back hip and lengthening along the right side of the body. Bringing it into side angle stretch now. Forearm to thigh or hand can come down to a block or the floor. Let's let our hips rest a little deeper and our upper body rotating open. And let's bring it back to our reverse warrior one more time. Taking our hands to the mat, stepping it back for downward facing dog. We have opportunity now to move through vinyasa. If we choose, shifting into plank with knees up or down, lowering for crocodile, choosing either hips down for cobra, or pressing to up dog, floating the hips and the knees. And then we'll meet back together in downward facing dog. Stepping our left foot to the top of the mat, coming into warrior two. Feeling that deeper sensation here with the longer stance. Reaching it back for reverse warrior, strengthening and feeling the back hip, and then lengthening along the left side. Side angle stretch, forearm to knee or hand to the block or floor, letting our hips drop a little deeper, opening it up as we rotate the body open. Now let's bring it back to reverse warrior one more time. Taking our hands to the mat, we'll step it back for downward facing dog and another opportunity to flow through vinyasa if we choose. Other options include staying in down dog or pressing back to child's pose. From our down dog, stepping our right foot to the top of the mat, opening it up into warrior two. For triangle pose, let's straighten through the front knee, crease into the front hip, lengthen it out as we reach forward and turning it over. Feeling our bottom hip tuck in as our upper body opens back. For reverse triangle, lifting ourselves up and back, pressing equally through both legs, relaxing the back hip, and lengthening along the right side. Another triangle pose, creasing into the hip again, reaching long. Let's turn it over and feel our tailbone really reaching toward that back heel. Bringing hands to the mat. Let's step back for downward facing dog. Stay with me here. Let's take our feet wide so they're either outside the edges of the mat or maybe big toes are still on the mat if we need the mat to keep us from slipping. Let's reach our chest farther back, so we're really stretching into the shoulders and the backs of the legs. Now pulling ourselves forward into wide leg plank, really pressing strong through the shoulders, lifting the backs of the knees, and hugging the core muscles up and in. And taking it back to wide leg down dog and bringing feet back to the mat. Let's rest our knees down and press back to child's pose. Taking hands back by our feet to let our shoulders really rest here. Let's take 3 breaths. Reaching arms forward, let's make our way back to downward facing dog. And stepping our left foot to the top, coming into warrior 2. For triangle pose, straightening it up, let's lengthen it out and turning it over, feeling ourselves really open it up as we reach back with the right ribs and shoulder, tucking the bottom hip in. For reverse triangle, lifting ourselves up, arms to a T, back hip settles parallel with the front, and we're reaching it back so that both legs feel equal, and we're really lengthening along the left side from the hip to the shoulder. Returning to triangle pose, creasing the hip again, lengthening it out. And this time feeling the tailbone really reach back toward that back heel. Taking hands to the mat, stepping it back for downward facing dog. Let's shift into plank and back to down dog 3 more times. Shifting forward and pressing back. And twice more. All right, let's take a little baby step forward with our feet and back with our hands, forward with our feet and back with our hands, and keep going until we get kind of close to the middle of the mat. And bending our knees a lot, let's reach wide and press up, reaching all the way overhead. And drawing hands to heart center. Taking another moment here to adjust anything that needs adjusting. And then coming back to hands to heart center, mountain pose. All right, for tree pose today, let's shift over into our right foot and begin with a kickstand with the left. Let's give ourselves a little bit of wobble side to side in that standing leg. And then press forward and back toward the ball of the foot, the heel, and back and forth a couple times. And then finding the center. Now let's feel our hips hugging in, our core muscles hugging in, and let's choose our tree pose for the day. So our toes can stay down or lift. We can bring our foot above or below the knee. Feeling that knee open wide no matter where we have it placed. And then choosing our arm options. We can stay right here or reach down, out, cactus arms, star or overhead. So choose whichever arm options seem like the most fun today. Hands coming back to heart center and then releasing. All right, now then, let's move our weight over into the other leg and make a kickstand with the opposite. And let's do the same thing on this side. Side to side movement of the foot and ankle. And then front to back movement. Now finding the middle and choosing our tree pose, toes down or up, foot above or below the knee, and we'll feel the knee opening out as wide as it can. And then we can choose our arm options, keeping at heart center, reaching out and down to the sides, cactus arms, star, or overhead. And hands to our heart center as we release. All right, inhaling, we'll reach overhead, and swan diving, we'll fold it in. Let's step back onto hands and knees one more time. Again, we can use fists for wrists here if we like that better. And let's just explore the spinal movements a little bit more here. We can return to cat-cows, which I would recommend if we're doing the fists instead of hands down. Or we can start to move through some sideways cat-cows, or we could even begin to roll the spine down and to one side, up and the other side. So just move through whatever spinal movements feel best in the body today. And then coming back to the center, we're making our way to seated, so we may enjoy grabbing blanket or blocks to sit on again as we rest onto a hip and come to our seated position. Our first seated pose will be butterfly. So let's bring the soles of our feet together, feeling our sitting bones as the foundation, lifting nice and tall through our spine, relaxing our shoulders. Let's take 3 breaths right here. And then to deepen it a little bit, let's inhale and lift through the body. Exhaling, leaning forward just until we feel a stretch we like. And that stretch may be in the inner thighs, deep in the hip creases, or back in the gluteal muscles. Wherever it is, it's fine as long as it feels like a good stretch. If it starts to feel painful, especially if it's in the knees, lift the body, maybe lift the knees, and find a place where the body enjoys the sensation of the pose. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And with our inhale, we'll bring it back to the top, stretching legs out in front with enough bend in our knees that we can sit up tall and flex our feet all at the same time. And we're adjusting as needed so we still feel sitting bones as the foundation. And let's spend 4 breaths here in our staff pose, really working on those postural muscles. With our next inhale, let's lift a little taller. And hinging right at the hips, let's lean toward our toes. Adding a forward fold here to stretch through the backs of the legs. If we feel this stretch across the low back, and especially if we don't like that, let's lift and bend our knees a little more. Inhale to lengthen, exhale to hinge, and hopefully we'll notice that stretch going into the backs of the legs now. Let's take 4 more breaths here. And with our next inhale, bringing it up to the top. Let's take our arms out wide to the sides, and we'll take a rotation to the right. But first, let's think about our sitting bones and our heels. Those are the foundation points here. And as we rotate the torso, if we notice our left foot kind of pushing forward, let's come back, reestablish, and then rotate just through the body. So we may find that it's a little less of a twist than we think it should be, but we'll notice more effort through the muscles of the waist and the spine. Now bringing it back through the center, feeling into the sitting bones and the heels again as we rotate now over to the left. Let's take a little peek forward, make sure those right toes aren't pushing to the front. And feeling the work of those back muscles and waist muscles here. And returning to the center, arms relaxing. All right, let's move off of our support if we're using it again. Moving it over to the side, and let's all scoot forward on the mat, taking hands behind a knee to gently roll down, coming onto our backs again. Let's bring both knees to chest. And actively draw shoulder blades into the mat. Then releasing that effort. Let's do the same thing with the muscles along the sides of the back, reaching down toward the floor. And letting it go. And finally, the muscles of the hips reaching down towards the mat. And letting go. Keeping our knees bent, let's release our feet down and place our hands under our hips so that we're sitting on the backs of our hands. Then we'll lift our legs up for variation on legs up the wall pose. And as we get there, we'll adjust our hands as needed so this is comfortable enough to rest here. Now let's actively stretch through the legs, pushing our heels straight up toward the sky. And then relax that effort. So it's okay for there to be a little bend here in the knees, the feet relaxing. And let's simply do some ankle rolls now. Nice big rolls all the way around that ankle joint. And circling the other direction. And then pointing our toes toward the ceiling. And then reaching toes back toward the knees. Let's point and flex a couple more times. And then relaxing the feet and ankles. And relaxing feet to the floor. Moving into bridge pose. We'll inhale, lifting hips up toward the sky. Feeling our knees gently hug toward the center. And if we choose, we can interlace our fingers behind the back, walking our arms up under our shoulders. This provides more stretch in the shoulders and opens the chest a little more. And then releasing all the way back down, drawing knees to chest again, and adding that rock side to side. Coming back to the center, let's stretch our right leg out to rest on the mat and hold on to our knee with our right hand. Taking our left hand out to the side or like a cactus shaped arm. We'll draw that knee across the body to the right and shift our hips a little to the left. So it's a supine twist. As we get into our shape, let's check in with our left shoulder. If it's peeling up away from the floor, let's relax it back down and then re-engage the twist. While we're here, let's take our breaths deeply into the left waist and the left ribs and enjoy that stretch. And then with our exhale, notice how the twist naturally deepens on its own. Let's do 5 breaths like this. And bringing it back through the center, adjusting hips back to the middle. Let's stretch out our left leg and draw the right knee up, opposite hand to knee, right arm out to the side or cactus arm. And guiding the knee across the body, we'll scoot the hips back to the right. As we get there, checking in with that right shoulder. If it's lifting up, let's allow it to rest back down. And then choosing that same breathing exercise, inhaling big into the right waist and rib cage. And noticing how the twist naturally deepens with our exhale. Let's do 4 more of those. And with our inhale, let's bring it back to the center, adjusting hips back to neutral and drawing knees to chest. Let's draw some big circles with our knees so we're rolling all the way around the flat part of our low back. And then taking those circles in the other direction. And back to the center. Now let's place our left foot on the mat and cross our right ankle on top. A supine figure 4 stretch. And we'll allow that right knee to relax away from the body. We can choose to stay in this variation, or if we like a little more sensation, we can fold the left knee toward the body with the option for arms to stay on the mat or holding on behind the left knee. So we'll choose our variation and then allow both shoulders to relax toward the floor. And keeping our breath deep and even, let's take 8 breaths here. Gently releasing this side and switching so that our left ankle is across our right knee and choosing to pause here, noticing how this feels with the left knee releasing away from the body before deciding to proceed. This side may want a little more or a little less. So we'll find that stretch that works best for this side. And then relaxing through our shoulders and taking 8 breaths here. And gently releasing. Let's draw both knees toward our chest again, allowing that gentle rock from side to side. And coming back to the center, let's place our feet on the mat and then separate our feet as wide as the mat and let our knees rest together so that our knees are making kind of the shape of a tent. This stretch is for the outer hips and the IT band area. What we want to make sure of here is that the knees feel okay. So if it's too much pressure, bring the feet a little closer together. Or if we're enjoying the stretch and we want a little more, we can take the feet wider apart as long as the knees agree. So we'll find our variation of this pose, allowing that stretch into the outer hip and IT band. And let's take about 5 breaths here. And bringing our feet back toward the center. Last time, hugging knees to chest. And it's time now to make our way to relaxation. So if we're feeling ready, let's go ahead and stretch ourselves out. We can grab our blanket if we like, or our blocks or anything else. If there's any final stretches our body would enjoy, let's give ourselves the opportunity to move through any other finishing poses. So we'll take just about 30 seconds or so here to finish up our part of the practice. As we make our way now into this final relaxation pose, let's take a moment to notice how we feel, and if we can make a small adjustment that would allow us to be even 5% more comfortable, let's allow ourselves the time to make that adjustment. And now, as our body is able to rest peacefully and without effort, let's allow our minds the same opportunity to enjoy spaces in between thoughts without the need to follow any particular one, but simply letting each one drift away with the next breath. Shavasana. Let's begin to bring our awareness back. Initiating some gentle movements. and deepening our breath. If we like, with our next inhale, we can reach arms overhead to stretch it out. And then melting into the floor as we exhale. And gently rolling over onto our side. And as we feel ready, we can press our way up to a seated position once again. Drawing hands to our heart center. Taking a moment to acknowledge our investment in our practice. And for this new way to share community as we practice together. And thank you so much for sharing your practice with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day today. Namaste.